people see on the phone?
Yep.
Okay.
So we just started the live. You should see it coming through momentarily. Oh, we gotta unpin that.
Okay, I see you guys now.
Perfect.
Do I sound okay?
Yep. So can you see us? This live dive stuff is not wrong. Hey everybody, we're working on some technical stuff here. We'll get this going here shortly. Unpin. Let's see, we already got some people in here, which is great. Tom, you guys can ignore that live dive thing. That's something that's not applicable to this. We're doing live Q&A. Okay, cool, it's gone. All right, so, hey Valerie, good, you can see and hear us. Cool. So real quick, we're gonna get our co-host in here. Not applicable to this, we're doing live Q&A. We're gonna get our co-host in here. Let's see. Hey Justin, hey Ronald. All right. We'll wait for him to get in here and then we can get started. Hey Art. Hey everybody, I got Patrick here. I'm Ian. You guys probably seen me before. This is Patrick. We'll do introductions here in a second. All right. All right, we'll add Dr. Nick. All right, there he is. Welcome, Dr. Nick.
Okay, hi. How are you guys doing?
Good. I think we got everybody in one room, so to speak, here. Say hi to the chat. Can you see the chat okay?
I don't see the chat. All I see are the two pictures.
Okay.
Of you guys and me.
Okay, you should be able to swipe left or right, or there should be an option to see the chat too on the bottom. So just bear with us, everybody, while we get started here, and we'll take your questions and get some answers. Oops. All right. We got Kelly in the background. Thank you, Kelly. 14 people. Welcome, everybody. All right. How are we feeling, Dr. Nick? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, cool. This is exciting. So I don't know how well you guys can see it. Patrick and I might have to kind of cozy up here a little bit. But hi, everybody. I'm Ian from LiveAquaria. We've got Patrick Largy also from LiveAquaria. And then on the other end, we've got Dr. Nick St. Ern, who is our resident veterinary expert. We'll do some quick introductions real quick just to kind of give you guys some background about who Patrick is and who Dr. Nick is. Honestly, they're the more interesting individuals here. But I'll be kind of moderating a little bit. We've got some Q&A questions we're going to go over today. And you guys probably saw some Facebook posts and Twitter posts out there earlier in the, I think last week, where we asked for your questions. So we've got some of those questions. We have answers to your questions today. But I will say, if there's any questions you have in this live stream that you'd like answered, it's harder to hear you. Oh, okay, I'll keep close. Thanks for the feedback, Art. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. We do have a list of questions we're going to get through today. But yeah, I think without further ado, we'll do some quick introductions. I'll start with Patrick here, and take it away, Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I'm the husbandry manager at LiveAquaria. I've been here for about 6 years. I'm basically in charge of everything that has to do with the fish and coral. I manage all the folks that deal with them, from the point they get here to the point they leave. And I don't know, that's about it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Dr. Nick, you're up.
Okay, well, I am a veterinarian. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a certified aquatic veterinarian through the World Aquatic Veterinary Medical Association. I'm also a distinguished fellow of the World Aquatic Veterinary Medical Association. I've been practicing for nearly 40 years, and during my time, I worked with a lot of exotic animals, zoo animals, as well as, you know, regular pets, but fish are actually my favorite. I've been keeping fish since I was 9 years old, and I have never been without fish since I was 9 years old. Through all my moves and changes in college and everything, I've always kept fish. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have over 1,000 books on fish health and aquarium keeping. So I've studied a lot about fish, and hopefully I can help you guys out answering some questions. My practice primarily is on diseases, disease treatment, medications, but I am also very accomplished on water quality information as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. Yeah, so we're really all very, very fortunate to have you as a resource, obviously, and have this opportunity to have this chat with you. So thank you so much for making time for this. Really quick, before we get into the questions, I just want to remind everybody that this is going to be a reoccurring event, a Facebook Live event. So we're looking to do this every Wednesday, 1 p.m. CST. So like I said, you know, if you didn't get your questions in already, feel free to put them in the comments for this live stream, live chat, and we'll do our best to answer them on stream. Otherwise, if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll do our best to follow up or include it in our next live stream next Wednesday at 1 p.m. CST. So if you're interested in getting some expert information from people that clearly know what they're talking about, definitely, you know, feel free to share your question, and we'll get some answers to you. So without further ado, I will kick off the first question. We have a question from a Romeo. Romeo asks on Facebook, I've been in the hobby for 13 years and still never found a good answer to what is the best way to get algae off the silicone seams. Scraping is definitely out of the question. And for this first question, I'm going to pitch it to my friend Patrick here.
Well, when it comes to the silicone seams on the tank, you have to be very, very careful, because that's essentially what holds all the water in the tank. You know, it creates that watertight seam so that the water doesn't spill out. So when you approach the silicone corners, the best, most practical, easiest way to remove the algae is with a soft bristle brush, like a toothbrush, for instance. You want to make sure it's new. You don't want to use a razor or anything that's too coarse, because it will damage the silicone and could cause it to peel back. And then the water could get underneath that, the silicone, and algae could start growing underneath the silicone, or you could actually break the seal and the tank could leak. So you want to make sure you go at it very, very delicately with a nice soft brush. And if you do it on a regular basis, it should not become a major project. So, you know, keep at it once a week or every other week, or, you know, as you see it start to grow.
Awesome. Hey, Dr. Nick, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I would also like to point out about the water quality effect on algae growth. And there's another question later that we can elaborate more on this, but be sure that your water does not have high nitrate or phosphate, because algae will feed off those as acts as a fertilizer. So if you're not doing regular water changes, or if your source water has high nitrogen in it, nitrates, phosphates, it will increase algae growth. So keep an eye on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I guess in that same line then, we have a question from a Michael on Facebook. How on earth can you get rid of blackbeard algae takeover? It's infested all of my tanks and nothing has worked. Going on 2 years, it's destroyed everything. So I'll start with you, Dr. Nick.
Okay. I was going to try to add a photo on the comments. Is that possible to do? I have a photo of blackbeard algae. I'm not sure where to go with that though.
Yeah, you should be able to type it into the comments, I think, and add a picture. Otherwise, it's on a desktop. If we can't add it now, we can always add it later.
Okay, I'll put one in so people, if they're not familiar with it, I do have some pictures of that. But again, as I mentioned,
oops, I think we lost Dr.
Getting an echo. Are you guys hearing that?
We can hear you now. Yep.
Are you hearing an echo?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm having a little trouble with my audio here.
Okay, we can hear you just fine.
So the ammonia nitrate. Everything I'm saying, I'm hearing again. Is that something we can figure out how to stop that?
I'm not sure. I'm not hearing any feedback on this end, but it must be coming through on your end. See me if I move the camera a little bit. Let's try that. Go ahead, try that, Dr. Nick.
Okay, so ammonia and nitrate and phosphate will all cause algae to increase. Your nitrate, you should normally keep below about 20 milligrams per liter in your aquarium, and your phosphate should be less than 0.25 milligrams per liter. Some tap water has phosphate added to it in order to reduce the lead that leaks into pipes. So the city will add phosphate to the tap water in order to prevent lead toxicity, like we saw in certain cities in Michigan. So you should test your tap water for phosphate and nitrate on a regular basis. You can use a test strip for that, or you can use a water testing kit. But if you're seeing that your tap water has nitrate or phosphate, then you're going to have to go to like an RO system or a bottled water to reduce that in your aquarium. If your aquarium has high phosphate or nitrate, but your tap water doesn't, then more frequent water changes will solve that problem. And you can just do a water change on a weekly basis if necessary to get those levels down. The other thing you can do for algae that's associated with high phosphate is there are phosphate removers that you can add to the water that will bind the phosphate and precipitate it out. And you can buy resins that you can put into your filter that will also trap phosphate. So those are the two ways of getting rid of phosphate if you don't have access to water that doesn't contain phosphate. As far as cleaning the black algae off things in the aquarium, you can do a 3% hydrogen peroxide soak diluted in water. So 1 part hydrogen peroxide, 3 parts water, and then soak your most plants. If they're not too fine plants, you could do a little soak to help get the algae off. But any decor items or rocks or articles that you have in the aquarium that covered with algae, you can also soak those in the peroxide solution, and that will get the algae off of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. Patrick, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I can say that, you know, increasing the CO2 levels in your tank too will also help, because, you know, if it is a planted tank, for instance, because if you increase the CO2 levels in your tank, it'll actually cause the live plants to grow better, and it'll actually overpower the algae for nutrients. So that's a good tip too, you know, adding a CO2 injection of some type, or adding a product like, I believe, Flourish is actually designed to help increase the amount of dissolved carbon that's in the water. I know from personal experience, I've always gone in there and kind of removed the larger tufts, because I feel like any algae eating fish, such as Siamese algae eaters or Norite snails, they tend not to really bother with the bigger chunks of it, the bigger tufts, but they will go after the smaller pieces, you know, so they'll kind of like interrupt the cycle. So you can kind of prevent the new stuff from growing as you fix the water quality. So it's kind of a few different things that you have to do all at the same time. Improve water quality, manually remove old growth, and add some fish that will actually eat BBA, like Siamese flying foxes and Norite snails.
Okay. Well, very, very helpful. Thank you both. This next question I'm actually going to take. It's actually still a common question we get from time to time. So someone, Art on Facebook asked, my pet store where I get fish and supplies told me that you own by Petco. I did a Google search. It looks like you're no longer owned by Petco. Would be great to clarify that. So yes, you are correct. Your Google search is correct. We are no longer owned by Petco. A little bit of backstory is the LiveAquaria brand was part of Drs. Foster and Smith family. Petco came in and purchased LiveAquaria and Drs. Foster and Smith. Unfortunately, they closed Drs. Foster and Smith, and then we were left alone with Petco. And then Petco, just as recent back in 2020, sold us to a different company, which we're in now. And yeah, we're no longer owned by Petco. So that's a really good question. So we still get that from time to time, no problem. But yeah, we've got a lot of cool things ahead of you, and like people like Nick are part of that future. So we're really excited under the new ownership to bring new and exciting things to you guys as a freshwater hobbyist, saltwater hobbyist, and other things. So thank you for the question. Let's see, what's another good one here? Let's see, we got Romeo. Oh, I think it's a Matt. The name seems to be cut off, but what are tips to successfully having a trio of dwarf angels? Patrick, I'll let you take that one.
So I assume we're talking about dwarf angels, like say flame angels, coral beauties, any types of those pygmy angels. Keeping them together is a challenge because there's no way to really differentiate sexes. There's no obvious difference between a male and a female. So generally, if you're going to try to keep the same species together, people often try to keep them as trios. So we've done that in the past, and it is challenging. We've had mixed results. Sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't. We typically attempt this in our coral vats. So they're approximately 6 feet by 2 to 3 feet, depending on which one we put them in, and about 15 inches high. And so there's a lot of space, a lot of room for them to get away from each other, and a lot of places to hide. And you want to add all 3 fish together. And the best way to do it is you want to add one that's significantly larger. I mean, you're talking a fish that's at least 2.5, 3 inches. And then if you can find some, the other 2 should be much smaller, an inch, inch and a half, or whatever. And you put them in that space, and you just keep a close eye on them. They will kind of chase each other around and hide and create a pecking order. And I would say after 30 days, if there's no obvious signs of fin damage or whatnot, I would say that you've successfully been able to trio them up. But it's difficult. We try it from time to time. When we get specimens in that are smaller, because they're not normally collected at a 1 inch size. Normally they're collected at 1.5 inches or larger. So it's definitely there's no real easy way to do it. Right? So just keep a close eye on your fish if you're going to attempt it.
Awesome. Dr. Nick, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I'm leaving that to Patrick on that husbandry side.
Perfect. Okay, next question I have is from Tara. What is the best light to see fish inside of breeding caves without bothering them? Patrick, I think you had another question or another answer for this one here.
Yeah, so generally, we use a red light when we acclimate new fish. So when we get new fish in, we acclimate them under red light because they can't see red light. Most animals can't. Humans can. We can see fine under red light, but most animals don't. So I know, any hunters out there or anything, they'll actually use a red flashlight to see around because it won't disturb animals. So that's, if you're going to try to peek in your pleco caves, you can buy just a regular LED flashlight with a red lens. You can pick it up on Amazon or something like that, and you can use that to peek in on your plecos to see if there's any activity in their breeding caves.
Dr. Nick, anything from you?
Most military surplus stores sell the military flashlights that are the green ones, that they're a little L shape, and in the base you can unscrew the base, and they actually have a red lens that you can put into the flashlight. So you can probably get one for about $10, and it has the red lens that you can use to look in at night on your fish.
Oh, cool. So relatively low cost solution too. It's kind of a DIY. That's cool. Yep. Awesome. I think we've got another one for myself, actually. I saw this comment, and I was thinking about this because it was a really good question. But Sid asked, why do you post freshwater fish for sale, even at sale price on your website, but yet you don't have them in stock? So this is a really good question. And I mean, if anybody knows, kind of generally speaking, you know, the trade of selling aquatic live animals, you know, it can be tricky. And Patrick and Dr. Nick obviously know quite a bit about that, and Patrick deals with it every day here in the coral farm. So, I mean, the reality is that we do our best every single day to make sure that the animals are cared for in the best way possible. So for us, the care and health of the animals is always number one. And sort of in that same thought, we have to make sure that we're doing the best for the animal, but also the customer. So we do, unfortunately, sometimes have to consider pulling certain items off of the site and making them not available if the health is not to the standard, or if the animals are not in the condition that are the best, not only for them to be sold and then brought into a home aquarium, but obviously for the customer's experience. So like I said, it can be tricky, but we always want to make sure that we're keeping the animal's health front of mind and making sure that they're in the best possible condition before making them available to customers. And unfortunately, that does happen from time to time, but you know, it's something we strive for every single day to make sure that we're at the top of our game for, and we'll continue to do better. So it's a really good question, Sid. I hope that provides some insights into kind of some of those situations, but definitely welcome the feedback, and we'll keep that in mind going forward. Patrick, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes you leave for the day and everything is fine, and you walk in the next morning and think something happened, you know, that you didn't expect, and it's better, you know, be safe than sorry. So we will pull stuff off the site if need be. I mean, these are live animals and not hard goods. So, and then also sometimes our sales surpass our, you know, what we expected.
That's a good point too.
You know, so sometimes we'll bring in a certain amount of quantities, and the demand will be higher than, you know, what we have in stock, and sometimes we don't have enough to finish the sale. So that's about it.
Okay, great. Let's see. I think we're actually getting to the. We'll actually take one from the live chat here. Art, I think you had a question. As a polisher, your thoughts on activated carbon versus Purigen versus ChemiPure? So, Dr. Nick, I'll let you take that one if you like.
Well, so there's a lot of controversy about activated carbon as far as the effect it may have with things associated with head and lateral line erosion. I have seen that responsible for loss of fins in fish, where the carbon particles, the little tiny granules, will get absorbed into the fish's gills and cause gill damage, and somehow would maybe block the vascular system in the fins. And we had one whole store system that I was working with where every fish in the store that was on a common filter had lost all of the fins on their body. And we traced it back to a powdered carbon that they were using. So kind of a little different than your question, but it's important if you're using carbon to maybe rinse it and get any of the fine particle matter out. Now, carbon is designed to remove organic dissolved compounds from the water, which will remove chlorine. It will remove medications. So if you're treating fish, sick fish, you'll need to be sure you're not using carbon. Some of these other ones, like the ChemiPure and things, they may also remove other components if they have different resins in it that might be able to remove phosphates or nitrates or other things that you want to take out of your water, copper, for example. So activated carbon in general won't do that. If you're using activated carbon on an incoming water, the main thing is to remove impurities from the water, and it'll remove chlorine. And it doesn't need to be in the recirculating system unless there's some specific reason you're trying to remove a specific chemical from a recirculating system. After medicating, you can put it into the filter or connect it to the filter so you can remove any additional medications from that, from the water. I'll let Patrick talk about other features for the other two products.
Yeah, I know, like the Purigen and the ChemiPure, I like those because they have a much longer use time. You know, like activated carbon, I feel like it's great in the first, you know, few days. I mean, 30 days at the absolute max, but the Purigen, the ChemiPure have a much longer, just say lifespan, you know, lasting up to 3 months or so. But like Dr. Nick said, yeah, there is different resin beads in there that will help remove other organics in the tank. So you'll probably get much better performance out of those two products versus regular activated carbon. You know, activated carbon, I feel like is good as a quick polisher, like, you know, use it for 24, 48 hours and then remove it, because I feel like after that, it could be more detrimental in the long run. But I would stick with the other two products if you're looking for more of a long-term lasting effect.
Yeah, I was going to say just my own experience, which definitely.
And as Patrick mentioned,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say.
So they do have a limited shelf life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to give you.
You have to either test your water so you know it's time to change them.
You got some overlap here.
Let's get 2 seconds.
Yeah. I was just going to say my limited experience. I mean, I've been in the hobby, awfully for about 7-8 years now. Definitely don't keep as many tanks as I used to, but my experience, you know, with activated carbon, just didn't. Yeah, to Patrick's point, I felt like I was going through it quicker than say ChemiPure or I was never really a big user of Purigen, but definitely ChemiPure. I really preferred that product, so definitely got more longevity out of it. So definitely can back that up. All right, next question is from, okay, we'll take another one from Art here. Would be great if you could explain a little bit more detail of what is done with fish kept in the divers den to ensure their health over the website. Fish stores have their own fish they quarantine, and they spell out in more detail what they do with those fish before they're offering them for sale. So I guess he's just looking for more of an understanding of, generally speaking, the fish and aquatic life items in the divers den with Zoo Week store. Kind of what's our protocol? What's our process?
So they are here in the divers den in Wisconsin for quite a while before we offer them for sale. So they come from, you know, we deal with wholesalers, you know, all over the United States. We deal with transshippers from all over the world. So the level of quality of animals that we get can vary from shipment to shipment. So we bring them all into our QT system, which is our newest system here, and we purge that system out, you know, once a week. We move all the animals that are thriving and doing well. They get moved out before we bring in the new fish, and we bring them in. We acclimate them under, you know, like I said, red light. And depending on the salinity or the specific gravity, we acclimate them on the table to make sure that it's a a gradual transition. We don't just, you know, float them and, you know, dump them. So there's no shock there. You know, we bring up the pH gradually through acclimation. And once they're in our quarantine system, we monitor them for, you know, for health, make sure they're, you know, eating, swimming, acting normal. All those things. Our QT system has an oversized protein skimmer, oversized biological filter. Our UV sterilizer is about 900 watts. We use ozone. We have an ozone generator. We have all that to make sure that, you know, the water that exits the aquarium, so, you know, each fish is kept in their own little tank, you know, and they all drain into our filtration system. All that goes through the filtration system before it enters back into the tanks. From there, we do freshwater baths. We use praziquantel in those baths for flukes. It's kind of like as needed, you know, if fish show symptoms of flukes. We keep the copper at a therapeutic level of 0.15 part per million using ionic copper. And we also use formalin too, to make sure that, you know, if there's any bacteria or anything like that in the water, any other parasites and stuff like that, that will remove that. We do that daily. And we also deworm, or we lace the food with praziquantel and mitronetrazole. Those two together help deworm the fish and get rid of any internal issues. And then so from there, we basically monitor the fish, and then we move them into our main system once they're acting normally. And from there, we just make sure we kind of, fatten up the fish, make sure that their colors are right, their fins are perfect. And then from there, we offer them for sale on the diver's den. We photograph each fish individually and measure each one, make sure that, you're getting exactly what you're looking for. If you're looking for a 3-inch flame angel, we'll shoot a 3-inch flame angel. Yep.
For sure. Yeah, it's actually really, and Dr. Nick, you might have seen that too as you visited from time to time. But it's really amazing, like what this small team does here every single day for the Divers Den. These guys really bust their butts to care for the animal and to make sure that they're in the best possible condition before offering that pup in the WYSIWYG Divers Den store. So, yeah, awesome. Okay, I think we'll take another question from chat. I saw one from a Justin. He says, I'm pretty old school. Curious to hear your take on the Jawbird system, which uses a plenum. I'm going to be honest, that's not for me. So, Patrick, any ideas there? No? Dr. Nick, does that sound familiar to you? Okay.
No,
well,
I have to take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. We'll do our best to research that and definitely get your question or an answer to your question. I think we could definitely look at this one for next Wednesday, if not sooner. So thank you for the question. We'll definitely take that in and look into it for you. All right. So then I saw a question from a Valerie. Have a 75-gallon tank that housed several peaceful South American cichlids and a group of rainbow fish. Recently, we moved the cichlids to a larger tank, and now the rainbow fish have stopped eating and act a bit disoriented. Can this separation of the fish cause them to have to reacclimate and adjust to the new normal? Patrick, I'll let you take that one.
My first guess would just be stress, just going in there and, shuffling around the tank, moving the fish around, and has caused the rainbow fish, and if they're older fish, it's most likely stress for sure. And if you did a large water change while you're moving the fish around too, that might have upset them as well. So hopefully once things settle down, they'll start acting normal.
Cool. Dr. Nick, anything from you?
I agree with Patrick. I think it's more of a stress-related response, and also you've actually decreased the bioload in the aquarium by removing the cichlids, so the water quality should be better. But be sure you're checking your water quality to make sure that there's no changes. As Patrick mentioned, maybe the water change has caused a problem. Maybe the filter is not working the same if you did some adjustments to the filtration system. So just double check your water quality as well.
Perfect. All right. We actually had another question from Art, which I'll take this one. Art was interested. Art said him and his wife found a company, but it's really hit or miss in getting to see the live sales. So this is actually a good tie-in to some of the live activities we got going on, which is our live dive sale, which we'll get to that in a minute. But first, Art's question. We were both able to watch Monday. This Monday was at karate with my 3 kids. She went to my website and signed up to see if they would let her watch. We watched the rerun later. It looked like you had some great deals. Just wondering what she or him can do to make sure they don't miss a live event. That's a great question. So we're definitely doing more to make sure that these live dives are as accessible as possible. So any suggestions, any feedback you have is great. Just like this is perfect. But definitely the first place I can give you as a recommendation is, if you're not already following or liking us on Facebook, that's your first step, because you should be able to see then any updates from us on the next live dive. But we will always have an event on our events page also for you to be able to reference. So if you're ever curious if one's going down, first of all, they're always Monday at 7:30 p.m. CST. But if you're ever curious, you can always go to our Facebook page, LiveAquaria Facebook page, click on the events tab, and then you should see the next listing or that current day's event listing there. So we'll definitely look at adding to the site and making it more accessible. I think that's another great way we can make sure that you guys are staying as connected as possible. So thank you so much for that feedback. It's really, really cool. Looks like we have Dale. Do you recommend a UV for your saltwater tank? I've always used one, but I read a lot of both negative and positives on them. What are your thoughts? Dr. Nick, I'll pitch that one to you.
Okay, so the first question is, what is the reasoning behind using a UV? So some of the things that it's done for is to remove parasites from the water, maybe some bacteria, and predominantly it's used to control algae. However, the UV bulb will decrease in effectiveness over time, so you have to be aware that you may need to be changing your UV bulb every 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months, depending on the manufacturer. If you're not changing the bulb periodically, over time the UV will become ineffective. It will still produce visible light, so it looks like it's working, but it's no longer producing ultraviolet light, so it's no longer killing the microorganisms that you're trying to eliminate. If you're not having a problem, there's really no need to run the UV light. Now, a lot of fish dealers will use UV because the fish are coming in and out of the store, and there's a potential for contamination or cross-contamination, so the water will go through a UV light on the filtration system. And that's really important. But in a home aquarium where you're not moving fish in and out and you're not having problems, you may not need a UV light. Koi pond users often use UV lights because of the algae that'll grow, the microscopic algae that causes green water. And so if you have a koi pond and your water is turning green, definitely a UV light would help. You have to make sure you get enough wattage to kill the microorganisms, including algae. If your bulb is too low power, or if your water flow through the system is too fast, it won't be as effective. So you need slow water flow, high wattage, and the proper size bulb for the quantity of water. If you're doing all that correctly, you should be able to eliminate green water. You can help prevent protozoa spreading and also some bacteria. But not all of these microorganisms go through the water column. So anything that's attached to the fish or attached to the aquarium, UV is not going to help. The only thing it's going to kill is the water that's going through the UV that will reduce the microorganisms. So it's not a cure-all, but it does have its place. We'll let Patrick see if he has other ideas as well.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I would only use a UV sterilizer on a system that has fish that are being, introduced, on a regular basis. If it's your home aquarium, your show aquarium, where you're putting in fish that have been quarantined properly, you don't need a UV sterilizer on there. You should only use that. Save that for your quarantine tank where, fish that are coming in that could have some pathogens with some, say, free swimming larvae like ick or anything like that, that's where you want to use your UV sterilizer. And then, like Dr. Nick said, proper maintenance is key. If you're not going to maintain it properly, then it's just wasting electricity. The sleeve on there, you want to make sure that you're cleaning that. Hopefully you can clean that. Clean that on a regular basis every 30 days or so, and make sure you follow the manufacturer's recommendation for bulb changing. And flow rate too. The slower the water goes through there, the more effective it'll be.
Definitely.
Yeah, if the water's going through too quickly, it's not going to kill it.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Dale followed up. The reason he asked is because he doesn't QT any incoming fish. He's old school and never had any issues when he ran the UV. So I know we definitely always recommend QTing, as a lot of other people do. And Patrick, you can add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, you should always QT your fish because you never know what, rears, in the fish. When the fish become stressed, they become really susceptible, and all types of things could, pop up, and then once you get that in your home aquarium, it's just like,
Till a little too late.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So you definitely.
A point about the quarantine tank is, in the wild, fish have parasites all the time, and they don't cause a lot of problems. When we bring either a commercially bred fish or a wild-caught fish and we bring it in, it undergoes a stress from transportation, from netting, from handling, and that stress will then lower the fish's immunity to where the parasites might become a problem. I'll see parasites at let's say a fish retailer in their facility, and then contact the farm. And the farm that's breeding the fish says, well, we don't have any problem with that parasite on the farm. Well, they have the parasite, they just don't have the problem because the fish aren't stressed. And so that's what happens is when you're bringing in a new fish from wherever you're getting it, it may have parasites but not show any problem. But then because it gets stressed, the parasites become more abundant. And even if that one fish you're bringing in, if it has parasites but they're not obvious and it's not showing signs of illness, if you put it right into your aquarium, the other fish in your aquarium that haven't been exposed to that parasite may be more susceptible to it than the fish that brought it in. So you might have the old fish start dying and the new fish are fine. Conversely, you may have parasites in your existing aquarium at low levels because the fish have become sort of immune to them and have stabilized, and they're not stressed and they're not showing a problem. But then you bring a new fish in and the new fish gets the parasites from the old fish and the new fish dies. And then the general attitude is you blame the fish dealer because the fish that you bought got sick, when it could have actually been the fish in your aquarium that actually harbored the parasites that made the new fish sick. So that's just a couple summary points to why quarantine tanks are helpful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you both. So we've got time for one more question, and I think this is kind of the biggest question out of the ones we got. So we kind of left it till the end. Scott asked, actually, John asked, I'm sorry, does carbon or carbon dust contribute to HLLE? Dr. Nick, I'll let you take that one. I think you had some good insight about the question regarding the HLLE, LLD.
Yeah, so carbon dust definitely seems to contribute to erosion. So I just give you a little background. So head and lateral line erosion, which we usually associate with marine fish and cichlids, angelfish, discus, and hole in the head, predominantly in freshwater discus, but other species as well, was originally diagnosed as being caused by hexamida protozoa, and then later octomitis, and then also spironucleus. So several different species of protozoa. Most of these protozoa are inhabitants of the intestinal tract. They can cause the fish to get sick. On skin scrapes taken from the head of fish with this lesion, they found some of these protozoa. So they attributed the lesions to the protozoa. Later thinking, or more modern thinking, is the protozoa are taking advantage of damaged tissue and just not being the actual cause, but being part of the cause in inducing stress. And so even fish that don't seem to have these protozoa can end up with head and lateral line erosion. So some of the other thinking behind the cause is a vitamin deficiency or a nutritional deficiency, especially things like vitamin C, which are really important in fish. So poor nutrition, which can cause stress, parasites like spironucleus, which can cause stress, also carbon. And we don't really know exactly how this mechanism goes, but I did mention that one time, one store, I did find carbon in the gills of the fish that were also experiencing fin loss, not so much head and lateral line erosion. But Jack Watley, in one of his tropical fish hobbyist articles, mentioned he does not use carbon because of it associated with hole in the head disease he had seen in his fish. So I contacted him and I asked him, I said, well, what do you think is causing that? He goes, I don't know, you're the scientist, you figure it out. But he did see that correlation between the carbon and the hole in the head disease. And I saw the correlation between carbon dust in the gills of fish that also had some erosion. So I think it may be particulate matter from the carbon. However, there's one other theory I had, is carbon, we mentioned earlier, has a finite cycle, and it'll start absorbing things into the carbon, and eventually it's full. And once it gets full, there is a possibility, if you were doing a water change and things like that, taking out some impurities from the water, the carbon may actually start releasing it back into the water. And you may see some change in water quality from old carbon. And then one other thought to put in here is some people have proposed it is associated with electrical shock and with electricity that's running through the water. So summary here is, if you're seeing head and lateral line erosion, Make sure your water quality is good, that there isn't elevated nitrate or phosphate or other problems that may be associated. Make sure your fish are getting fresh food, being fed regularly with a good quality, fresh diet. Fresh meaning not old, it's been sitting around for a time, because the vitamins will decrease. Maybe add a vitamin supplement to the food. Make sure you don't have stray electricity. You can use a electric probe to test your water to make sure there's no electricity, and then take the carbon out and see what happens. And see if, Patrick, do you have other ideas on that?
No, I mean, you pretty much just nailed everything that, water quality, good quality food. Like I said, carbon I don't like to use on a regular basis anyways. And yeah, the whole stray voltage, I know with some heaters and stuff like that, some power heads, as they age, some of that can leak out. So using a voltmeter, you can check to see if there's any stray voltage in the tank that could be upsetting the fish.
Really good.
Yeah, there's a little. You can get these little voltmeters. Here's one from Radio Shack. I think they may not be in business anymore, but somewhere. But basically you got a couple little probes. You stick them in the water. You turn on for your voltage, and if it should be 0, and if there's voltage measured between the two probes, then you need to look at it. I just recently, like last month, was in a fish facility, and I was looking at some discus that were all grouping together, and they didn't look unhealthy, but it wasn't natural to see them like that. So I actually put my finger in, trying to kind of like poke around the discus to get them to move so I could see them swimming. And as soon as I put my finger in, I got electric shock. And it's like, oh, okay, I know what the problem is. And it turned out that there was a stainless steel heater connected to the filtration system on a recirculating system that did have a short, and it was running electricity through the water. So check for that.
Yeah, I use that same meter, and I'll put it in the water, and I'll just go through and one at a time unplug each, the filter, the heater, what type of equipment is in there, and you can find out where the voltage is coming from and, replace it. But yeah, we use that in our systems to find out which heater is bad before somebody gets shocked.
What, putting your finger
worked.
in?
Yeah. On that, but it's so good. So I think kind of tied into this question from John, he had also pointed out that we have blemish fish on our divers and Wizard store from time to time, and I think he actually called out one specific purple tang that had I think it was the head and lateral line erosion.
Right.
Yep. Or lateral line disease. You might have a combination of it too. I think you and I looked at it together, but I think both Patrick and I thought this was a great opportunity to kind of help everybody understand too, like what it means by blemished. Essentially, like we put blemished items on the website. What does that actually mean? Should you as a consumer be concerned, or what?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier about quarantine, our quarantine system. So we get fish in from all over, and they come in different degrees of, quality. And some of the fish come in and they're imperfect, So, but doesn't mean that they're not a healthy fish. So some fish will come in and they'll have, a split fin that may be really deep that we think, this fish isn't going to heal correctly, but the fish is still good. It's still healthy. Once it clears our observation period, we then offer it for sale at a discount. So that's kind of like the whole backstory when it comes to the blemish label. The fish that we offer for sale are healthy. They are just have some degree of disfigurement.
They're unique.
Or scarring when it comes to HLLE, because when a fish has severe HLLE, it's not reversible. To some effect, some of the really light scarring may disappear if you improve all the things we talked about earlier, but the really deep scar tissue is permanent, and it disfigures the fish, but it does not necessarily mean that the fish is going to have a short lifespan or not act normal. It's still a high quality fish. It went through the same procedure that all the other fish go through that we offer on the site. So that's kind of you know, we kind of have like a generic, you know, blemish title, you know, and we in the item description we go into detail what the actual blemish is, whether it be you know, a damaged dorsal fin or scarring or whatnot.
So if you do see an item on the diver's den marked as, then all you have to do is understand why we're calling it blemish. Just look a little further down into the overview section, and you'll see a call out there.
Ian, one other point on that is sometimes getting that fish into a home aquarium where it's in an environment where it has more room than what we would see at most retail facilities or wholesale facilities, that it actually may do better and start recovering. On the other hand, things like head and lateral line erosion, I work with a couple different zoos with their aquatic exhibits, and I have one fish that
I think we lost him.
I was interested in that.
Yeah, he left us hanging. Can you guys still hear us okay? I think we got some connection issues. Oh, looks like we lost Dr. Nick. All right, well, I think we got one. I think that pretty much covers it for today. I see we had some comments in there still. We'll definitely look at adding those into the next live Q&A. I think we lost Dr. Nick, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap this one up today for this week, actually. So like I said before, we'll be doing this every Wednesday at 1 p.m. CST. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in this chat. We'll also be taking questions in the event for next Wednesday at 1 p.m. CST for the next live Q&A. So look for the event on our Facebook page. Look in the events tab. You should see an event there for next week. Feel free to put your questions in there, but yeah, feel free to send us anything you have, and we'll look at answering them for next week. So I think that's pretty much it. Want to thank everybody for joining in. Patrick, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll look forward to talking to you later. Thanks.